sketch. I already said I already measured this. It's a 3 by, what did I say, 3 by 4, 3 by 4 ratio. So basically what you want to do is you want to set your, there's a couple of things that I decided to do when I looked at this. I don't like this going across right here, so I'm going to take these two trees. I'm going to tell Judith this because she's going to be working on this. I would take those out. See that? I also would take this mountain in the background, and I would use this tree more as a solo, and I'm going to bring that, move this one over and bring the mountain more down, so that we don't have these straight bands going across. More excitement into it. But see, that's the beauty. I can do that. I can do that adjustment down here, and I'm going to make sure to note that when I'm working down here. Also down here, where this runs into the corner, I'm going to make sure that we see this as a break right here, so that this doesn't run as a straight line right into the corner. So these are all things when you're working outside that you want to make sure that you do. This is part of setting your composition. You adjust nature, nature doesn't adjust you. It's the other way around, folks. Always remember that. You can do whatever you want with what you see there. I'm going to let this come up off the corner. Basically, I do a really light outline. It kind of gets these shapes, and I always look at the negative shapes first. Okay, and the beauty of this surface is you can just basically let it in there if you want to wipe it a little bit, but you'll just paint over that, and don't worry about it. You can always, because as you paint, remember what I said. This is a pigment, and as you paint your brush, when you got oil in it or paint in it, it's going to move that. It's going to lift that right into your. It's going to put that right into your paint. You'll never even know it's there. It's not enough pigment.
It won't change the color.
It's very little. Okay. So basically, so I'm going to just do a really loose outline and just make sure I got my composition right. You just check where this is across here. Okay. The tree, I'm going to kind of measure the 1, 2, 3.5. 1, 2, 3.5. 1, 2, 3.5. So it's there, right? 1. So it's going to be right here. Did you get that? You can do this with your fingers. It's a lot quicker sometimes if you don't have that tool that I told you to buy a million times. But that's where you're going to have the branch of that tree, basically in that area. Now this is kind of how loose I want you to keep it. You don't want to get too detailed. If you look at that, that's quite loose. Okay, you don't want to get too detailed in here. It's just basically what you want to make sure that you have is everything placed where you want it. So that's 1, 2, and about 1/4. 1, 2, and about 1/4. So you can just literally do this: 1, 2, and 1/4. See? 1, 2, and 1/4. Right? 1, 2, and 1/4. So I'm going to keep adjusting it until I find that. 1, 2, 1, 2. And you can eyeball it too. So basically I'm pretty close right there where it's going to end. Got that? Draw a straight line across, which is what I did here. This is going to angle just slightly above it. You check your angle line. Remember I said that never changes. So if I take this and I move it down here, it never changes, right? Look at that. It's right on the money. Never changes as long as you're right. The more of these points, remember I was telling you guys about these points? The more of these points you get into position that are correct, it's an interesting thing that takes place. The faster it goes. You get more and more points that are accurately placed, and it gets really fast. You start saying, oh, that's not quite right, that's not quite right, and you have one thing to measure against another thing. I told you I want this break in here, which I'm going to follow down from the tree here. That's just a break that I want to make sure I don't forget. I move this tree over. This one here, I moved over, right? Remember that? Yes? No?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, now this is going to allow more of the mountain to come down in. I'm going to have the mountain here, piece of it. This is going to come down. But notice how much of what I'm doing is straight lines and angles at first to start. Because that's what's more important. Not every leaf or I'm going to be painting over this with a big brush and paint. So what I want to make sure is I get these gestures right. Where are those angles, you know? Use more straight lines than curved lines, always. Only very few times I can say always. Remember I said use more straight lines to define your shapes than curved lines. They'll give your painting more strength. Okay, in this angle I'm going to make sure that I change. And it's going to end up a little bit below halfway, as you can see. So that's really easy to find, right? Halfway, visually. A little bit below. Just make a mark there. That's where that line's going to end, coming back to here. See that? So always measure, and it makes it really nice for you to get these really nice subtle angles. This here, I'm going to just pretty much eyeball that. It's about right down the middle of that shape. See that? I use my fingers a lot when I'm drawing, by the way. I even do this to measure things. 1, 2, 3. because you got your own little measuring tools right here. And also check angles, so you use your hands. It also gets you into the work a little bit if you use your hands. And that's going to be, and I'm going to put that rock in here because I wanted to stop it. So that rock's going to go there as kind of a stopper. Remember I told you I want to make sure that this gets shown, so I'm going to bring this up a little bit. I want to make sure that we know this. Now there's that, I told you about that corner. I told you about corners. There's one right there. It's a stopper. And we know that this is going to come up to here. Here's another angle. I want to make sure I have that right so I can measure it off this tree. See this? Now I'm going to tell you something, a little secret about composing. Now I want you to stop filming for a second. Or you have to keep going on this.
No, I could stop and